Russians have the ATACMS situation almost every day. This time it is the Russian Belbek military airfield close to Sevastopol city, Crimea. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Well, so far it's the only evidence we have from the place. The last night there were several of the Kabooms in Belbek airfield that were confirmed by local eyewitnesses. They say that at least 3 of the Kabooms happened on the territory of that very important airfield. It is the base for the Russian fighter jets and helicopters. Just want to show you the location where it happened. So this is Sevastopol. If we zoom into the place, you'll see the Russian military base of Belbek. And if we zoom in even more, you may see the Russian fighter jets, which are placed on the apron. Before there were at least 2 of the strikes on this airfield. But Ukraine hasn't been using the ATACMS missiles on that one until today. Was it really a successful strike? Well, I think it was, judging on the ground Kabooms and some of the fire from the place. But to make sure, we should wait for the satellite images. Russian officials would obviously say that everything is okay for them. Also, Russian military bloggers could report real losses sometimes. But for now, Russians say that all of the 10 of the ATACMS missiles were intercepted in the skies over Crimea, which is absolute nonsense because you saw the ground Kabooms in this particular area. The Russian channel Crimean Wind reports about 3 of the Kabooms on the territory of Belbek, and they locate those as you see on this map. And let's measure the distance from the Ukrainian controlled territory till Sevastopol. Here it's 247 kilometers, and from Odessa it's around 300, so for sure new modifications of ATACMS were used for this strike. I just wonder about the warhead, because attacking the airfield, it's preferably to have the cluster munition ATACMS. Because the airplanes are not secured with armor, they are made out of alloy, so they are very vulnerable to any sort of the debris or shrapnel. In this case, Ukraine may disable many of the Russian airplanes. As you can see, Ukraine tries to target the Russian military bases for now, not the Kerch Bridge. Maybe Ukraine waits for extra tools to start the strike, like F-16s. Guys, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may join my Patreon team. You may find it in the video description just below with a link, or you may scan the QR code available on the screen. My friends, thank you so much for your awesome support. Alright, now let's go to the military map update. Kharkivskaya Oblast, where Russia started their offensive around 5 days ago. As you can see, they already occupying quite a lot of villages near the border, and we have also update in Vovchansk. They entered this city. For now, I'm using this 3D map to show you the picture, but later on we're gonna go to the other military map sources. So the half of the city is already in the gray area at least, and some of the districts were occupied by Russians. Yesterday there was the official statement from Ukrainian military command that Ukraine had to withdraw its forces from some of the districts of this settlement. Well, I'm not yet sure about this one because it stays in a gray zone, but I think in a very close perspective, Ukraine would have to withdraw from this side as well. And Russia will simply occupy this part of the city till the river. The thing is that Russians may also advance from the northeast, but so far the river stops them quite well, so they're unable to cross it. What about the Ukrainian defense lines? Well, the picture is different, depends on the area. For example, in Vovchansk on the northern side, there were some of the minefields and there were some of the anti-tank barricades, so Russians mainly are unable to use their heavy vehicles to advance to Vovchansk. For this reason, they mostly go with their infantry. So the idea for Russia is to strike Vovchansk using artillery systems. That's what they do just right now. And after those attacks, they send more and more infantry forces to take the ground. It's their usual practice. The other place where Ukraine was forced to withdraw the forces is near Lukyansk, so all of this settlement is in a gray area and partially was occupied by Russian forces. The Ukrainian military command has already admitted it. And let's go to the deep state military map to check out the movement of the Russian army. So it was yesterday and it is today. Definitely they advance to Borovatka and also they go to Volchan. So here, but the situation on the ground may differ compared to what we see on a military map. And here the deep state military map shows that Lukyansk village was fully occupied by the Russian forces. The Institute for the Study of War tells that Russia suffered severe losses upon their movement in Kharkivska Oblast, so the pace of their attack slowed down, but judging on the latest images, especially from Volchansk, I wouldn't say so. Yeah, they suffered lots of the losses, but they continue to send more reinforcements to the place and attack again and again. It is very early to say that the Russian offensive bogged down in Kharkivska Oblast. Also, we have some more details from Ukrainian military intelligence director Budanov. He says that Russia is preparing one more strike in Sumy region. For that purpose, they concentrated around 11,000 soldiers. The Sumy region is over here, so the attack might happen in the coming days. Ukraine has announced the evacuation of the bordering villages with Russia. And we have more precise details about the forces which Russia uses to attack Kharkivska Oblast and potentially to attack Sumy. So here they have 11,000 soldiers, and to attack Kharkiv region they concentrated 33,000 forces, so totally 44,000 to be more precise. For now we understand that the defense of many of the settlements was organized not in a good way, and here is one more reason for it. What you see on the screen are so-called dragon teeth that were delivered to the Liptsi village. It's near the Russian border of Kharkivska Oblast. It's now been occupied by Russians, so the last summer those anti-tank cones, pyramids, were delivered to the place and were put along the roadside, and no one does anything with those. It seems like one company was responsible for delivery, the other one should have performed their duty by putting the cones around, but they didn't do their part of the job, so according to reports, those cones are lying there since 2023. It shows that bureaucracy and, let's openly say about it, corruption may harm the defense. I say it like it is, Ukraine definitely has problems with that. Our soldiers are fighting their best on the front lines, but this bureaucracy, together with incompetence of some of the Ukrainian officials, make the situation for Ukrainian defenders very hard. For now we see it just in the direction of Liptsi. As I told you, there are some of the minefields and anti-tank defense near Vovchansk, so Russia advances with their infantry only. Putin is going to visit China soon, and from what I see, China is determined to support Russia in the war against Ukraine. Analyzing the reports from the media sources and the statements of the intelligence services, China started to send more of the tech equipment to the Russian army. For now, those are not openly weapons, but I think that China might transfer weapons to Russia via North Korea. And Putin today stated that Russia is ready to negotiate about the peace agreement in Ukraine, but Russia is not going to withdraw its forces from any sort of Ukrainian territory, so he considers a current front line as the possible future border, which is absolutely not acceptable for Ukraine. So for now we have two of the initiatives. One is coming from Russia and China about some sort of the peace negotiations based on the current status quo, and the other peace negotiations will take place in Switzerland very soon, where allies will discuss Zelensky's peace formula, which means that Russia should withdraw its forces from all of the Ukrainian territory, and Russia will never do it until the Russian regime loses its power. During his last visit, Xi Jinping said to Putin on cameras that they're up to change the world order. That's what they're planning to do, creating the coalition of dictatorship countries trying to conquer West domination. So it's mainly not about Ukraine after all. We definitely live in a world which might change very soon. Ukraine is just the first country which experienced those changes. The success of the dictators depends on the confidence of the West, of the United West. But from what we see, the Western politicians are a little clumsy and weak, and obviously our enemies are using this tool. As for the videos coming from the front lines, well, I have something to share with you, but I use Telegram platform for that because we have lots of the restrictions on YouTube. So if you want to be updated on what is happening in Ukraine, please subscribe for my Telegram channel. You may find it in the video description just below. Here I may tell you that the Russian convoy was ambushed near Krasnohorivka, including one more of the Hunger tanks. By the way, about the construction of those tanks, I didn't know, but they totally disabled the turret movement. As you may see, they actually weld the turret to all of this hangar construction. Before I thought that they have at least the limited movement of the turret, but now I see that no. The construction totally disables the capabilities of the tank. But at the same time, it's kind of effective against the drone attacks, so Russians might move across the front lines using this armored vehicle as some sort of the backup and protection for their infantry. And as you see, they mostly use the old T-62 tanks for this modification. Putin continued to replace or change the positions of the Russian elite. For example, the ex-FSB director Patrushev is now the advisor of Vladimir Putin himself. Not a huge surprise here, they're close friends. The Russian Defense Ministry Speaker Konashenkov was removed from his position. The Russian General Surovikin attended Kremlin yesterday. The details of his conversation with Putin are yet unknown, but rumors say that he will be proposed with a high-rank position in the Russian army. Yesterday, Russia targeted one of the big residential buildings in Kharkiv city. Well, actually, Russia targets Kharkiv every day. But it doesn't mean that they have resources to advance and occupy that city. This is the drone image from the Volchan city. As you can see, Russia just demolishes it. New protests erupted in Georgia, the capital city of Tbilisi. Before, Russia was in war with Georgia, occupying the parts of the country, and they created so-called Abkhazia and South Ossetia republics. It is the standard scheme for Russia, which they did also in Ukraine, creating so-called LPR and DPR republics. But now, miraculously, Georgians do have a pro-Russian government. It really shows how in a matter of the few years, country might change. From total opposition towards Russia to having the pro-Russian government. So this pro-Russian government takes a new law which restricts the rights of people. Actually, they took it today finally. The law is about media control. Russians do have the similar one, calling every of the opposition media as the foreign agent. So they have the law of foreign agents. The same stuff will be in Georgia. It is also a great threat for Ukraine because now, yes, Ukraine is fighting against Russia, but if Russia wins, they might change the Ukrainian government, they may put their propaganda to brainwash Ukrainians too, as they did on the occupied territories, and later on they're gonna use Ukrainians in their needs. In 2008, many Georgians lost their lives. Russia actually entered the Georgian territory. Tbilisi was under the great threat. Russia bombed the infrastructure, and now pro-Russian government, it's just crazy. Politico says that several of the Ukrainian representatives, MPs and officials went to the United States to press Biden to lift the ban on using United States weapons to strike the Russian territory. It should have been done even before then. Russia gathered the groups of the soldiers on their territory of Belgorod Oblast before attacking Kharkiv. So if Ukraine had used HIMARS to target those, maybe Russia wouldn't be so successful. Ukraine has launched one more drone strike, and the drone was shot down in Tatarstan, around 1,500 kilometers away from Ukrainian border. It's roughly 900 miles. So the Russian air defense sometimes works. But again, in Crimea, it didn't. The United States of America considers sending another Patriot missile battery to Ukraine. That would be the awesome decision because Ukraine now struggles with electrical power. Russia targeted the most important power plants in Ukraine. So during the winter time, it will be absolutely terrible. There will be no electricity for many hours per day. That's why Ukraine urgently needs to defend of what is left from the energy infrastructure. Well, I think that Russia wouldn't strike the nuclear power plants, and we have 4 of those in Ukraine. One is occupied, however, by Russians. I'm speaking about Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. My friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.